Okay, so we're going to talk about a basic introduction for Java programming for FTC. So first, we're just going to talk about computer programming in general and object-oriented programming as well. And then after that, an introduction to Java, and then introduction to FTC programming specifically. So life cycle for programming is first you write a program, then you compile it, then you launch the executable, and then the program is executed. So these are the steps for programming. So first you have to write the requirements, then write an algorithm, develop a flowchart, write the code, test, and then finally you validate. So Java is object-oriented. So understanding a few basics of object-oriented principles will help us code better. So we should at least know what it is. So first there's objects and classes. So objects have states and behaviors, and classes can be defined as a template or blueprint that describe the behavior that the object of its type support. So basically class is the code and object is the runtime. And there's an example on the screen. So creating an object. Object has to be created before you can use it. So in Java and other object-oriented programs, they use new as the keyword to create new objects. So some terms, inheritance, which is the process where one class acquires the properties of another, and there's override, where it can override the functionality of an existing method. And there's an example on the screen. So some more terms, polymorphism, which is the ability of an object to take on many forms. There's also abstraction, which is the process of hiding the implementation details from the user, and only the functionality will be provided. And there's abstract keyword, which is used for class and functions, and inherited class must override the implementation. And then there's encapsulation, which is a mechanism of wrapping the data and code acting on the data together as a single unit. So these are some words that are just common to all computer programming languages. And so some fundamentals for Java programming is most programs begin with a preprocessor statement like import, and all programs must have a main function, and all functions and sections begin and end with braces, and all statements must end with the semicolon. So this is the character set. And so these are some keywords for Java. And so some Java programming basics is case sensitive, the class names, method names, program file names, and every Java program must have a main function defined. So these are some data types. There's byte, short, int, which is integer, long, float, double, Boolean, or char, which is character. So these are some operators. There's arithmetic operators, relational operators, and logical operators. So there's also loop statements, and loops repeat the same statements till a logical condition is satisfied. So there's 3 primary loops, for loops, while loops, and do while loops. And every loop consists of 3 parts in a sequence. First, there's initialization, condition, and updating. So loops condition checks the conditional statement before it loops again. So functions, and functions are a block of code or statements that performs a specific task. And so if you have multiple lines of code that you're using in different places, then you can group those together. So you just have to call one line. So FTC programming fundamentals using Android Studio. So first, some software you need is Android Studio, and you can download the FTC SDK from GitHub. So you have to create an autonomous, you have to create a class with inheritance from linear op mode. Then you have to define your variables, and you must define override run op mode. Then you have to define your hardware map, use telemetry and log D so that you know what's going on when your robot is running. And you must use a wait for start. Must include a while op mode is active, and at the top you can put @telyot and the name that will appear on your phone when you run it. So driver control op mode, you have to create a class with inheritance op mode, and you have to define variables. You must define override init and loop, and you again have to define a hardware map. You can use telemetry and log D in driver operated as well in order to see what your robot is doing. And you again use teleop and then the name so that you can see so that you have it on the phone, and map function to the gamepad. So thank you for watching.